with the presentation. Before we get started with the presentation, I'd actually request Brother Junaid to come up on stage, inshallah ta'ala, and recite the Quran for us.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وكيف تكفرون وأنتم تتلى عليكم آيات الله وفيكم رسوله ومن يعتصم بالله فقد هدي إلى صراط مستقيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها. كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So let's get started, inshallah ta'ala. I hope everyone is aware of why you're here. The email had mentioned, and some of you we had to call and give you a reminder that this is happening. With regards to today's event this evening, we're going to be talking about what options you have as parents. And of course, as students, some of you are here, mashallah, from the grade 8 class, to have discussions that have to start in your family as of today. The reason why, and I know some of us have already met, right? Alhamdulillah, some of us have already met, but for most of us, we haven't. With regards to what's happening next year, I know it sounds like a long time from now. There's about 10 months till the next school year begins. But believe it or not, AP applications are already open as of November 1st, right? So they do this fairly quick, right? Our deadlines for AP are coming up at the end of the month in November and then mid-December. Right, so these things happen really, really fast. If we're not on top of the game, then we kind of sort of have regrets. So because of that, before in the previous years, we were doing this one by one. I'd have parents come into the office, we'd do a mini presentation specifically for the parents, and then we'd make informed decisions together as a family. And then if you needed my insights or the insights from the grade 8 homeroom teacher, Sister Madiha, in previous years, we're more than willing to help. But what I wanted to do today, inshallah ta'ala, is because those meetings become very taxing. They take about an hour, hour and a half individually. So what we thought of doing it is that we called everyone here to have one meeting so that you know what your options are and how it's structured. And most importantly, all the trailing questions that we've been getting specifically with regards to our own institution, that we're able to highlight that in a presentation. And then following this, when you have clarifications, questions, as the dialogue of high school is happening in your homes, if anyone needs further clarification, we're obviously here to help. Okay, so that's basically the point. So I wanted to go over, before we actually start today's presentation about the Manarat school, I wanted to first talk about what options parents have. So every parent here should be aware what you have available to you that is completely fine. All of these options we're going to talk about are completely fine from a OSR perspective, from a student record perspective. It doesn't affect the student's status when they're applying, for example, to universities or colleges. The first option is the homeschooling option. And the way that's done usually in high school is through ILC, which is online learning, right? Literally every single course you can study online. You can go through it yourself with the help of a tutor or a parent, write the exam at the end of the term, and that's how it works. High school isn't like middle school with particular periods, particular schedules to follow. It doesn't work like that. Because it's based on credits, you can literally self-pace yourself and do credits throughout the year, including the summers, including evenings in certain courses to try and get ahead. The second option is the public schooling option, right? And that, as of 2018, that is dependent on your area zone. So if you live in a particular zone, that's the same thing, by the way, as your voting zone. So the wards that you have for voting, those are the same wards that whatever high school is in that. If you have one or two, usually there's not more than two. Those are your direct options. You don't need to apply to those schools. You just need to show up at the office and say, my son or daughter is going to be entering the school in September. Here is their information. If they check and you're part of the local area zone, that's registration. That's how simple that is. Okay, so the first one is very simple. The second one is very simple. Here's where we get to the application process. So AP are specialized programs. Just to give you a little review of what that is, you get to have locally developed programs in high school for students who are struggling. You have applied courses in high school for students who are geared towards college and apprenticeship. And you have academic level courses in high school geared towards students who are going university bound. Beyond that, about a decade ago, the Ontario government started to have AP programs, which were very popular in the States. We've adopted it here now. So AP is basically advanced placement, which basically means that everyone in your class that is attending that class has a particular academic level. Even teachers for advanced placements aren't your regular high school teachers. They've had to have a certain amount of years under their belt. They've had to have a certain amount of degrees under their belt for them to get appointed to that position, which means the AP schooling is not the same as regular schooling. They happen in regular schools. For example, we have two in our neighborhood, John Fraser and St. Joseph's. One is a public school, the other one is a Catholic school. Both of these schools are AP. We generally, before we had our own school, blindly, I would recommend parents to take their kids to AP if they've attended our school. For the very same reason, is because I had personal experience with AP. I went to an AP school. And secondly, because the people that you're around, your classmates at the AP level, are all of a particular academic mindset. The teachers are of a particular academic mindset. So it's an easy transition from here to AP, right? So that's why we recommend AP, public and Catholic. The fifth recommendation is Islamic school. Now, in the past, we generally only recommend that for students who need a little bit more sort of grounding before they're let out into the world. Students who we feel aren't ready yet, we recommend parents, we've got 3-4 really good Islamic schools in our neighborhood. Maybe you should try looking into those schools. Maybe if this person went into the public school system, things would happen that perhaps might not be the best for everyone involved. So this person needs a little bit more maturity, spiritual maturity. And so we'd recommend that to Islamic schools. These were basically our recommendations for the past 4 years. I would personally do the applications myself in this office, obviously with regards to whatever parents wanted me to do. And as of 2018, this was our status quo for the first 3 years. When 2019 kicked in right before COVID, we realized that our students who were graduating from here, and they were going into AP systems and Islamic schools and public schools. And we were finding again and again that those students were not being challenged. They weren't being pushed perhaps to the way they were pushed over here, not just academically, but in terms of demanding from them specific character traits, in terms of demanding from them a particular level of acuteness and dexterity. We found that to be true. And so we started having internal conversation amongst ourselves about perhaps a way forward And just like my requirement over here was, before I was hired here, my one requirement to the administration was this, that I get to do things my way because I don't want this to be like any other Islamic school experience, especially at the middle school levels where students are being ready to be thrown in the world. I don't want them to have a school experience that is very similar to other Islamic schools. Then what's the purpose of sending your kids here? There's so many other Islamic schools. We should be supporting those schools, right? Ustad Junaid just read, "La tafarraqu." Don't create divisions in a community. So why would we erect another school if there are other schools that are doing the same thing? We'd have to be providing something that is different. And if we're not doing that, I don't see a point in it. Just like that, we had the same exact sort of mindset with regards to the Manarat High School, right? That if we are putting up the exact same schooling system that is available up before here, so if it is similar to any one of these five, then there is no value in starting up a separate school. What we should be doing is encouraging parents to pick the best of these depending on their child. And that's exactly what we've done in the past. So in the past, we've recommended our students to Islamic schools, to AP Catholic, to AP Public, and some, believe it or not, to public schools. We've said this kid they just need to be in public school, they'll be fine, right? So what did we want to do with the school? So before we get started into what the Al-Manarat School is about, I would like, inshallah ta'ala, two big news before we begin. We want to start with shukr, okay? As of today, there's two really big news that I want to share with you, okay? On behalf of our whole staff here. I just get to be up here, but like this, a lot of people do this stuff. It's not just me, okay? Firstly, alhamdulillah, we've just finalized as of this week, last week actually, our own high school space. So just like we have this side of the building here for the elementary school and the middle school, that side of the building officially now is going to be turned into the high school. And that's a very beautiful corner lot with beautiful, beautiful things done inside. We're gonna spend some time renovating it to make it ideal for his high school environment. There's some renovations need to be done for the science lab and these things, but hopefully inshallah ta'ala, by December, early Jan, that place is gonna be up and running. There's a winter retreat happening this December for students, and we're gonna be using that space for that. So hopefully it's gonna be inaugurated, inshallah, end of December, inshallah ta'ala. So that's all your efforts and du'as, mashallah. So it's not just us, it's also part of you and our students. And secondly, today, we, alhamdulillah, had a government inspector inspect our school. This is a very big day for any new and upcoming private school because they check each and everything. They want to make sure everything is done by code, everything is done by particular systems, particular paperwork. There are certain things that we are following. They'll shadow the classes. They'll sit in with the students, teachers, and all. And alhamdulillah, I think we can easily say that we passed with flying colors and surpassed all expectations, yeah? So before we got started with anything, I just wanted to share that because it's a very happy day for all of us. Okay, so for the school itself, just a few things, inshallah ta'ala. We're gonna have Sister Nasreen do a president's message. She's the president of the organization. Although she is not part of the high school pedagogy process, she is the DNA system behind the entire Al-Manarat umbrella. So we're gonna ask Sister Nasreen if she can come up here and say a few words. So welcome everyone before we get started.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. All praise and thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may peace and blessing be upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and upon his family, his companions, and all those who follow him until the end of time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. I began by thanking all those who have joined us for open house of our high school. Today, I feel very privileged and humble to witness the growth of Al-Manara into a new era, a new beginning, and a new future. Alhamdulillah. About 15 years ago, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with the understanding of Quran. The study of Quran sparked in me a desire to share this message with the world. That one spark turned into a small lantern that began to illuminate the hearts of little children as they studied Quran. As more hearts were enlightened with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more people joined the team and shared the vision that I started. In few years, alhamdulillah, Al-Manara came into inception, and alhamdulillah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the community's support, we grew from a tajweed class to a weekend school, to a full-time Islamic school, to youth program, a community welfare program, to now, alhamdulillah, as Islamic high school. After successfully running an elementary Islamic school, my team and I realized that the students who graduate don't find the same academic motivation or the spiritual upliftment, and neither they did have the environment for the seed of Iman to thrive and grow into a strong tree. The effort that we exerted during their elementary and middle school years to mold them into a moral spiritual being often became somewhat useless, if not completely. As a result, many parents and students alike desire and demanded that Al-Manara launches a high school. This request was made when we had our first graduates in 2017. Over the past few years, with a careful deliberation, we handpicked a team to serve the community in a capacity beyond middle school. The Al-Manara High School is a unique project, and we can comfortably say that nothing exists quite like it. It is truly a beyond AP program and centered on ensured that the most fundamental success skills are mastered by the students. Al-Manara High School, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by our side, aims to create leaders that will be torch bearer of the future generation, and inshallah for generation to come. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that gives my team and I the strength to successfully fulfill what we promised, and that he raises a nation whose heart will be illuminated with the light of Quran and Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen. My team and I owe immense gratitude to the parents community who helped us reach this far. They have shown that they are truly the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that values education. We truly appreciate your hard work, and I request all of you to keep us in your duas as we tread on the path of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Once again, Jazakumullahu khairan kathiran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, and everyone here knows Brother Junaid, so I'm not going to read this. Okay, I think everyone's familiar with who Brother Junaid is. He's the vice president of the organization, and everyone else knows the details. So actually, the person that I wanted to introduce to a lot of the parents, because you're not aware of her as well, she joined us obviously last year. She is the official principal of the high school. So could I actually call Sister Kiflain? She's taking care of her daughter behind me. But she'll speak to you, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, Sister Kiflain has a bachelor's of technology in computers from Bombay, India. She's been in administration for the past close to about 10 to 15 years. And we pulled her in to do administration work here as well. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Kiflain Sheikh. I guess everybody is familiar with me now. I'm the principal of the high school. I also teach grade 6 in the Heights. So a lot of kids here now know me by name. I'd like to take this moment to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this wonderful opportunity, and then Sister Nasreen and Brother Junaid for giving me this post of the teacher. I have done, as Brother Junaid must have told you, I've done my bachelor's from India, and I have been a tax practitioner for 8 years before I moved to Canada in 2016. So my role as a principal is to be the or the first point of contact with the ministry. So the ministry, if they have any questions related to the course being taught, any subjects, I'm the person they will contact. I have to ensure that the Ontario curriculum is delivered according to the ministry's requirements. I also make recommendations to the ministry to grant diplomas and Ontario School Program Certificate. I grant the secondary school credits, and I determine whether a course or a prerequisite course can be waived, right? So all these things are my job and my duty as a principal now. And Alhamdulillah, today, it was the very first beginning of my interaction with the ministry. And we really had a very good experience. They were very happy with the way we taught the students in class. They were very happy with the course content and how the things were organized by the school today. I will be taking two courses. I take two courses. One is business studies. Since I've done my computer studies, it was a very great opportunity for me to come in and then just take up a role of a teacher in business and computer studies. So they are doing very well in that. And in next sem, I will be teaching them geography. So I will hand over to Brother Hassan again. Brother Hassan, it's your turn.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody.
Right. So, alhamdulillah, just let's skip this stuff. Basically, my responsibilities at the high school is I'm officially going to be the Dean of Academics here, as we've already started. So course selection, streams, making sure the students are ready for their next steps, whether it be the next year or planning for 4 years later when they're applying for scholarships and grants to get them into university level. So the first part of it is all of the academic issues that happen with students, their credits. So Sister Kiflin and I will be working together in ensuring that all things go smooth on that end. Then career paths and where students need to be going. What are the options available for them? What are the different avenues that are at focus? The second thing is I'm also going to be head of the math faculty here at the high school. And so all the way from grade 9 till grade 12, any math, physics, or data management related courses, statistics, courses, they're going to be done under a particular set of guidelines, which I'll speak about inshallah ta'ala going forward. And obviously I'll be a senior advisor for the English and Humanities faculty, which is going to be headed by Sister Uriba, who's also here and she'll be presenting in a moment. And finally, the student's guidance counselor, whether it be academic counseling, or spiritual counseling, or work ethic counseling. So the way the grade 9 courses work here at the school is that we have a total of 9 offerings. 8 of them are official, 1 of them is unofficial. And these offerings include, specific courses that we've already spoken about. So the general courses you won't get to pick in grade 9. Most of them are already pre-picked, which means they're compulsory courses. There's no way out from them. So you're stuck with English and math and science, and there's nothing you can do about that, including phys ed and French. You can't get away with that either, right? So there are certain grade 9 courses. Every year, there's certain courses that are stuck. They're concrete. You can't change them. The older you get, the more options you have to kind of move things out and push things in. But at the grade 9 level, your options are pretty much limited to 2, right? You can only play with those 2 courses. So Sister Kiflain is going to be teaching the geography classes, inshallah ta'ala.
Yes, so
You can just come here, inshallah.
yes. So geography will be in semester 2. These are the basic. This is the basic outline of the course, right? So we have to submit to the ministry what is the purpose, what is the scope, how is it useful to the students, and what to expect. What will the students learn when they come out of it? So geography and history, these are basically, they are compulsory credit courses. They carry 1 credit and they have to be offered either in grade 9 or 10. So the geography will be offered in the 2nd semester. And next. Okay. So the purpose of this course is to examine interrelationship between Canada's natural and human systems and how these systems interact with those in other parts of the world. Then the students will explore economic, environmental, and social geographical issues relating to topics such as transportation, energy choices, and urban development. Students will apply the concepts of geography thinking and geography inquiry process, including spatial technologies, to investigate various geographical issues and to develop possible approaches for making Canada a more sustainable place to live in. At the end of the course, we can expect students to be able to make connections between what they are learning in class and the past and present day local, national, and global event that are happening, that the developments that are happening and the issues. The course will help students analyze controversial issues underlying diverse perspectives. Like right now we have the global warming, the coronavirus issue. So all these things, like how the virus affected different localities, that is what I'm aiming to teach. That how at different, like because of the geographical location, how the world is divided into developed, developing countries, and then how this virus affected different countries in different ways, right? So those all things we will then build a deeper understanding of the geography of the world, and then Canada's relationship with these countries, with the other countries, and how Canada has stepped up and taken responsibility and done better for the country, for the world. Then it is designed to stimulate the students' interest in the world around them. So that is my geography course. And then information, this is the course that we are doing this semester. So this is a very interesting course. Students have performed exceptionally well this semester. We are learning all sorts of things in business related to computers. So how the computer world now has adapted and changed, and how it has now enhanced your business, right? Right from the development stage where you are thinking of your business concept, when you have to put that on paper, you have to present your ideas to different people. What tools do you use? How do you communicate? What things you have to make, like right now, even for us, right? We have banners and pamphlets and all those things. How do you make that? What are the tools that will help students to realize their goal? So all those things we are learning in business. So the purpose of this course is to get to know the current tools in technology that will be helpful for students. So by the end of this course, it will improve their practical skills, which they can apply in any workforce. Students will be exposed to various software languages and tools. That's it from me. Thank you so much. These are my 2 courses for this year. Inshallah, and for next year, we are planning more courses for grade 10. So inshallah, we'll keep you connected. Our goal right now is to make this course, the grade 9, 10, 11, 12, a lot computer oriented, because that is where the world is shifting, right? We've seen in the coronavirus, everybody who was not even well versed with computers, didn't know anything about computer, is using. Today, computer is part of every individual's daily routine. So we want to get the children here to be able to, maybe inshallah, start their own startups, right? That is the future, start having their own startups. We are a ummah. The sunnah of the Rasul is tijarat. It's not working for somebody else, it's tijarat. So that's my aim for each student, that they should be able to stand up and say, I want to do my own business. That is what we are planning for our next generation. That is my goal that I see for each and every child I have in this class. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Okay, we have Sister Nabiha, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm Sister Maliha, you all know me. I'm a science teacher for her middle school as well as high school. So science is being taught in high school for 1 semester. Second semester, I'll be teaching food and nutrition. So for science, the curriculum of science is divided into 4. biology, in which they will study about sustainable ecosystem. Second is chemistry, all about matter, periodic table. This year, mashallah, our students, they did good job and they discovered their own elements. So today when the inspectors came, she was amazed by their projects and the work what they have done. Some of the models I have kept there. If you want, you can see what they have discovered. The third topic, what we'll be doing would be astronomy, and that is all about planets and solar system. The fourth topic is about physics, and we'll study electricity in that course. Okay, so that is for the first term, and then inshallah, second term, we'll be studying food and nutrition that comes under the heading of social sciences and humanities. And it plays a key role in shaping the students' view about life and learning. So it focuses on the use of structured inquiry to understand human behavior and human nature. Here, students will learn that they are not isolated, means they are being affected by their own and by they affect others also. So food and nutrition, okay, so this is about the food and nutrition. It's all about the Canada's food guide and healthy food choices, which they will be studying. Okay, and nutrition, health and well-being. This is the third unit of food and nutrition. So everything related to food and their healthy living, they'll study in this course. So that's it. Anything else? If you want to ask, you can feel free. Okay. Exactly.
Right, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I see some brothers looking in the back for food. Inshallah, we'll wrap it up as fast as we can, inshallah. So first of all, thank you for your patience. I know it's a long day and then evening, but inshallah, wrap it up as soon as we can. So my role at the high school level is teaching the phys ed and sacred Arabic. So before I get into my subjects and explain, I just want to give you an overall of what is happening, right? I know Sir Hassan spoke about this and he will speak further on the Manarat edge, but just so you are in sync with what was happening, 15 years ago, Manarat was a dream, right? We dreamt of having a school and things like that, and we had a weekend school. Right, alhamdulillah, it was established about 10 years ago. And then, about 6 or 7 years ago, we had a dream about full-time school, not just a weekend school, but full-time school. Alhamdulillah, that came to pass. And then 2 years back, we had a dream of having a high school. Alhamdulillah, with the idhn of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we now have high school. And going forward, our goal is, inshallah, we're dreaming right now of Manarat College. And going forward, we want to have Manarat University. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, he says that when you make dua, don't just ask for Jannah, ask for Jannah for those. Right? So it's always dreaming. It's a dream that gets us to that position. So when we are saying things here, it's not just that we will do it, we have already done it, right? With the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and inshallah we'll work towards getting it further. And one thing to also keep in mind is we can produce a nation, a generation like our generation. Because look at the state of the Ummah today. Definitely something went wrong in the previous generations, right? Education, something was off, that we either went in worldly streams or religious streams. We separated the two. That's what we don't want in the coming generation. We want to, unite these two worlds, right? In the Quran, the first revelation, Allah revealed, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, iqra wa rabbuka al-akram." Two iqras. Why? One iqra, learn the divine knowledge. One iqra, learn the worldly knowledge. Both of these things need to be put together. And that is, I would say, the overall goal of all the courses and programs here. So with that, we'll get into the subject matter, inshallah. So I'll be teaching sacred Arabic in grade 9. So within the grade 9, class, we have 4 years of Arabic studies, Quranic and Arabic studies, inshallah. And in the first term, we'll be doing fundamentals of Nahu and Sarf, basic grammar, and the books are placed over there, inshallah, you can take a look later on. And then we'll be studying Juz Amma in the first year, Quranic vocabulary and getting in depth with the Arabic language. Then grade 10, we'll be focusing on intermediate grammar and Sarf and morphology, as well as the vocabulary of Juz Tabarak, the 29th Juz. And grade 11, we'll be focusing on advanced grammar and advanced Sarf, as well as the study of Surah Al-Baqarah. So the first part is going to be more on Makki surahs, and later will be Madani surahs, inshallah. That's how we have planned. And the fourth year, grade 12, will be reading a classical text in Arabic language, as well as the study and vocabulary of Surah Ali Imran, the complete surah, inshallah. And these are going to be credit courses, right? So not only are they studying, instead of taking other courses here and there, the electives are going to be Islamic studies, right? So they get credit for it, as well as they learn Islam. The other course I'll be teaching, inshallah, is physical education. So, okay, the best course, of course, the entire high school. I have a lot of fun because I get to be fit as well. So what are some of the things that we'll be covering in this? It's not going to be just random play. The most important unit, I feel, is the benefits of healthy eating, right? Healthy eating, healthy diet, right? That is something Islam focuses a lot, right? All of our ibadat, all of our good deeds are linked with healthy eating. So there's a huge chapter on healthy eating. Then we'll talk about benefits of active living, movement competence, right? What are the best ways of movement and injury prevention, fitness measurements and appraisals. How do you test your fitness? What is BMI? How do you, check your fat percentage, things like that. Then there's a whole unit on fitness planning and injury prevention. We'll also talk about substance use and addictive behaviors. And another big chapter is sexual health, right? Sex ed is a curriculum, but the benefit of studying here is you get to see the Islamic perspective. You get to see what is right and what is wrong. It's not all okay, right? If you know, the biggest adab in Quran came to a nation that was involved in homosexuality, right? We show the right and wrong. At the same time, we don't show that we hate people. We need to know what is right and what is wrong, a firm line between the two. And so apart from that, the Prophet ﷺ, he tells us that a strong believer is more beloved to Allah than a weak believer, even though there's benefit in both, right? Islam encourages us not just physical fitness, but also spiritual fitness. And so we'll also talk in detail about tahara, right? Because this is the age when a lot of changes are happening. By the way, I also want to highlight that the female instructor will be different. For the sisters, will be a female instructor, inshallah. And for the brothers, will be myself. So that, especially when the sexual health aspect is there, the sisters are able to address the goals in a better way, inshallah. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave you with this, inshallah. Yaqub alayhi salam, Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, he was on his deathbed, right? And he asked his sons. He doesn't ask his sons, what job you will do, where you will live, what you will eat. I have left these many things in my savings, use it. No. The question he asked is, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِ? What will you worship after me? Now who? He was just checking them. Ma, what? Are you going to even worship Allah or some things and money and things like that? So our job as this generation, or as parents perhaps, your job as parents is to make sure that the generation follows Islam, a generation that obeys and worships one God. That is the ultimate goal of all of education. If you spend your money, your time, your everything, at the end of the day, they come out as atheists. That happened. So many of my friends, they went into university, good friends, they come to Musalla and all that. They went into first year biology class, came out, I'm no more, a Muslim. This is the reality. This is the kind of bombardment that's happening within universities. If you don't have the tools to defend it, forget about Islam. Forget about everything. So inshallah, I'll leave you with that. And Salahuddin Ayyubi, when he conquered Jerusalem, the first thing he changed was the education system. When you have a good education system that gives you the ma'rifah of Allah, the recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything will be in its place. So, all the teachers here, Ustad Hassan, myself, and everyone here, alhamdulillah, they have a spiritual background as well as they were not less in academics, right? Alhamdulillah, we went to very good universities, passed with distinctions, and you can balance both. But the most important is for Iman. We'll leave it there, inshallah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, Sister Ulita.
I'll let them take their seats first before I begin. Okay, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. I am a new face to Manarat. A lot of you may have not seen me before because I haven't been in the building physically. Inshallah, I'll be joining next year and I will be serving as head of the English department. Hello, test me. Okay. I'll just hold it here. You can tell I haven't done this in a long time. I just had a baby actually, which is why I'm not teaching this year per se, but I inshallah will be here from next year. All right, so as head of the English department at Manarat, my dream and my goal for the school is basically to take students away from the conventional English learning model, right? So I see a lot of kids here. I know maybe you have been exposed to public schools, you've seen them on TV, right? And the way it usually goes is that you're given a textbook or a novel, it's sitting in front of you, and you basically have to do what the teacher says, right? So the teacher says, oh, the author said the curtain was blue for so and so reason. You're like, yeah, she's right? That's why the curtain is blue. But that's about it, right? It stops there, and you're not really thinking outside of the box about, okay, what is the actual bigger picture in this novel? What is this author's background, right? Do I even personally believe in this, right? A lot of you maybe who read books, does anyone like to read books? I see some hands, yeah. Junaid is like, yeah, me too, same here, right? But my goal here is to actually take students on a different advanced plane of learning when it comes to reading, right? And like Brother Junaid was mentioning earlier about going through two different streams. So on the one side, you have secular knowledge, you're learning to be engineers and doctors and whatnot. On the other side, you have Islamic knowledge, right? And a lot of the time, both are divided, right? Why not be both? So my job with the English department is to actually connect the two holistically. And the word holistically means just that, to bring the two together. So bring Islamic narratives into our study of language and literature. That's just a brief about that. Background about me, I hate doing this part, but I did my undergrad at U of T. I majored in English and minored in history and religion, and in 2020 I finished my Master of Teaching at University of Toronto at Worsley, and I have about 2 years of experience teaching in public high schools in Brampton. So I've worked at 4 different schools, and I know what it's like. I've seen the curriculum, I've actually studied the curriculum firsthand, and I know that there's a lot of things missing that I personally would like to add, right? And a lot of what's missing is this Islamic narrative unit, right? That's what's missing from the curriculum. I am a published writer, and I am a student of knowledge in my first year program at Taba. It's continuing, inshallah. All right, so you kind of already got a bit of my vision for Manarat. The last thing I want to touch upon is love as pedagogy, right? So because we're very lucky to have a classroom with a small number of kids at the moment, right? So we have one-on-one experience with me as a teacher, right? So apart from the conventional model, which is like 30 students and 1 teacher, and you don't really get to interact with them. Some teachers have no idea what's going on in their students' lives, right? This is different because I can actually personally get to know the students better, right? And then cater to their needs in that way. All right, so this has been said. All right, so the area of focus, so this is like a roadmap for the 4 years. So like, but it looks a lot like Religion's roadmap, but basically I want to combine grade 9, 10, and 11 English in grade 9. So you're not just getting grade 9 English, you're also getting the advanced English too, right? So be prepared to know grade 10 content, be prepared to know grade 11 content, and that will inshallah go on throughout the coming 4 years.
All right, so the content itself, I've made it very simple here into 5 different units. However, it's more dense than it looks, okay? I won't go into it just for sake of brevity, but I basically want to bring in more works that are not really studied in schools, break away from that conventional system, bring in more novels that will raise students' minds and psyches and consciousnesses. And these are the learning tools. So just briefly, you'll be exposed to poetry, story writing, essays, research process, articles, and digital media. So basically combining the outside world with the Islamic world, both hand in hand. And I think that's about it from me. If you have any questions, I'm here, so I'll hand it over.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So as I mentioned before, I'll be taking care of the math faculty here at the high school. Don't want to go through that much. Just want to give you a couple of things that are maybe relevant to help you understand, inshallah ta'ala, what we're actually doing here. We have a 18-month term. Each term is about 18 months. So starting from September. Right now we're on week number 9, I believe. And this is a 9-chapter textbook. This is our grade 9 book. This is the book that in general high schools, those of you who, some of you might have really strange memories with this book. This is the older people here. But this is the book that's conventionally studied. And as of next week, our students in about 9 to 10 weeks are actually done with this book. And they're done this book is made up of, those of you who know your high school structuring, it's A, B, C levels. So A is knowledge and understanding, B is application, and C is thinking, inquiry, and communication. The students are required to finish all the C level stuff in class, and then A, B they do at home, which basically means the technical, complicated stuff is that most students would actually skip out. Most teachers don't assign in these books. Those of you who have been to high school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those are the ones that we care about. Those are the only ones we're concerned with. So the things that teachers probably won't assign because it's too cryptic and perhaps they'll have a tough time solving it as well. Those are the only ones that we focus on because it's a different paradigm. So what are we going to do for the rest of the term? And we're done the textbook that's assigned to them. We're going to try and expand their understanding of things that are not part of the curriculum, like financial math, right? Like how investments work. Like how is it that you are going to try and orient yourself to be very, very hyper successful in your younger years. So it's about trying to get them volunteer hours early and then trying to get them paid through tutoring programs. We have in our class, alhamdulillah, a few students who have a strong background in Quran. They're now learning to get their ijazah. They started their classes as of last week. So to get certified in the recitation of the Quran, through a traditional isnad system so that they can actually start benefiting the community by teaching the Quran and getting paid for that as well, and end up starting their own academy, their own teachings, inshallah ta'ala. No, Sister Kiflin mentioned about doing small businesses on the side just to help understand how the real world works, how to manage money, how to invest. So we've already started them on that route. We get to do that because they've already done the fundamental things in a very advanced way right from the get-go. Okay. Don't want to bore you with this stuff, so I just summarized it for you. Okay, this is actually why you're here. That stuff we could have emailed you with, okay? But we wanted you to meet the teachers and get to see how everyone is here and basically hear it from their own mouths as to what they plan to do with the curriculum. This is the stuff that I actually want to speak about. So let's get serious. We are told in the Quran that there are 3 modes of being. Yeah, this is an ayah from Surah Al-Fatir. I've color-coded it. I apologize if you guys can't see this clearly, especially with the back. It might be kind of small. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about 3 specific types of attitudes with regards to anything great that you have access to. And this being the greatest thing is the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there are those people, they're wronging themselves, right? Another group he talks about muqtasid, like the average folks. Literally, muqtasid means right in the middle. Right? And then he talks about sabiqun bil khairat. The third attitude are those people who are at the forefront of all things good. Right? So the 3 levels that are clearly mentioned here are those people who wrong themselves, that's in the red. The middle course, the average, moderate folks, adequate. And the final are the foremost, the ones that are in charge of all of the goodness, in front of, leading the pack. Here's something from George Lambert. He wrote a really interesting book called Mastery. It's a short book. You guys can pick it up literally, read it in a couple of days. Yeah, it's a short book on his 40 years, 4 decades of him being an Aikido teacher. So martial arts, he was a martial arts teacher. And he said that the students and the people who excelled the best in martial arts with him had specific attitudes. And from that, he actually studied all other professions that he could and saw that there were similar things. So he found that the first type of attitude he discovered was that of a dabbler. Someone who takes on a task, and then as soon as that task gets difficult, they quit. So they eat a really nice steak somewhere, and they get into steak cooking. And they start to do steak cooking, they realize it's not as easy as they thought, and boom, they pull the plug. They watch the US Open, they get into tennis. Get a really nice racket, get nice shoes, start to play. They realize it's not easy to play tennis, so they quit. Dabblers are really interesting people, by the way, because they've done a lot of cool things, right? They also have the best garage sales because they'll buy everything, but they won't commit and fully finish. So it's good to have dabbler friends because then you get to take a lot of things from them that they quit on. The second attitude that he talks about is the obsessive person. The person who takes on too much too fast and they dive full in. One of the things the Prophet told us about Islam is that be very careful of taking the whole thing in because there's too much and then it's going to disorient people, right? So they have they go full out too fast and then boom, there's a drop, right? So another reason that he says that students don't do too well is that they take on too much too quickly. The Prophet reminds us that the most beloved deeds to Allah are those that are perpetual, consistent, even if they be tiny things. So baby steps, right? Musa could give this presentation. We did this in the grade 8 classes. So, assalamu alaikum. Okay, the third one that you see there is the hacker. This is someone who pretty much works really hard. You can see the little curves there. They get good at things and then they stagnate. So they're okay with being okay, all right? They're fine. They're an average athlete, and that's okay. They're an average student, and that's okay. They'll get by in life, and they're happy with that, right? The Quran calls it muqtasid. The Quran calls this ظالم لنفسه. People who haven't given, like if you have something very serious, you don't want to be a dabbler in it. Like you don't want to be a dabbler as a child to your mother. It's a bad idea, right? Like if you hit pitfalls, you don't just quit. It's a bad idea. Right? So there's certain things that are so important in life that you don't get to be a dabbler and an obsessive person because you're going to pay the price for it. That's why the Quran calls it ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. Those people who are only wronging themselves, right? The second group, the Quran hits it right in the head. Muqtasid, the person who's okay being okay, average. The third attitude that the Quran highlights is سَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ, which is the master, what George Leonard calls the master, someone who perpetually keeps growing. Someone who has the attitude that I'm very grateful for where I am, but I could go higher. So their tomorrow is getting better than their today. All their tomorrows are better than their yesterdays, right? So it's an attitude shift. So I want us to remember that. What is the master's attitude? They don't quit when things get hard, and they're always trying to build up, right? It's an attitude issue. The second thing, Amy Chua, really interesting sociological writer. Some of you might know her from the first book that got banned in many places. Does anyone know her? She wrote a book called The Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mom. Did you ever read that book? Okay, so basically she got banned for that book in many places, but she talked about with the advantages of tough parenting, right? That if you parent tough, and she said this is a memoir. So she actually did that with her 2 daughters, made them very successful lawyers, yeah, and athletes and musicians. And basically she was trying to say that if parents do the right thing, could they have it all? Could there be a child who excels in every stage of life? And everyone ended up telling her no. And she said, look, I'm going to document everything that I do with my children. And I'm going to document that. I'm going to prove it wrong. So she wrote a memoir, which happened to get banned in many places. It happened to be so starkly truthful. And when things are so starkly truthful, people don't like it too much. Anyways, she wrote a book about how do you become successful in anything that you do. Right? And she said for you to be hyper successful and hyper productive, you need 3 ingredients. The first one of them is superiority. You have to know that you're meant for greatness. Like you're different from other people. That's very important. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that لَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Human beings are ennobled. They're not regular creatures of God. They're ennobled creatures of God, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. He informs us that human beings, they're not just a regular creation. They are in the most pristine form, right? Their form is the most pristine form. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ. You are the best of nations. أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ, for the service of mankind. There's no one better. If you get to serve mankind, there's no one better to serve mankind than the believers, right? So, superiority, I am meant for greatness. The next one, insecurity. Someone can say, that's a contradiction. It's not, right? Insecurity, I am not living up to my greatness. That's the second thing that she finds that it's really important to have as an attitude. That I am meant for greatness, but I'm not living to that level. Remember we said what the master's mindset was? Always trying to be better the next day. Yeah, how do you do that? You know you're great at something, but then you want to surpass that. That's an attitude. Yeah, that's an attitude. And finally, the last one is impulse control, which is I have to sacrifice the now for the future, right? Which is called grit. That the al-an, just the right now, if I sacrifice the now for higher return in the future, that might be better for me, right? So if you combine these three, you get another attitude. So we get the master attitude, and that person doesn't quit and tries to become better every step of the way. Then from the triple package, we know that there's a particular attitude required for greatness. And the ingredients for that are, I am meant for greatness. I am not normal. So I'm not okay being okay. The second is, I am not living up to my greatness. I could push further. And the third is, I have to sacrifice the now for the future. If you put these three together and you give it enough time, then this person does not look like a regular human being. They've transcended a lot of boundaries and a lot of obstacles. That's how it works, right? Everyone should be familiar with this, right? Yeah, this is the most sold book after the Bible, right? In history, it's the most sold book in the Western world after the Bible, right? Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he divides his 7 habits into 4 parts, right? Principles and paradigms, private victory, public victory, renewal. He says you can't be effective until you stand for something, because if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything, right? So his understanding was you first need to have principles and paradigms that you stand up for, things you believe in, a higher way of being, living, goals, visions. If you don't have that, you don't get to be great. The second thing he said is that you need to apply that in your own life. Because if you don't live out your own vision, then you're not going to be successful. You're just talking. You're not transforming the world in any way. So greatness cannot touch you. So his second point was private victory. You apply the vision to yourself. The third was public victory. You're so good at it that you enact the following, that people look up to you, that you become the standard by which people also start to share similar visions and goals and principles. And finally, the last one is renewal. You need to restart and do it again. So if you were to actually check the sections of this book, right, you'd actually find these 4. And you know what's starkly interesting? Does this remind anyone of anything except Musa? Musa can't answer. But other than Musa, does this remind anyone of anything? Principles and paradigms, private victory, public victory, and renewal. Renewal means to go back and renew. Okay, so وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Everyone's a loser, so they're not effective. Yeah, everyone's a loser, except people who believe. They stand up for something greater than themselves, right? وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, right? And they have righteous deeds, so they live out their vision. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, and they encourage other people to see the truth. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and they are persistent. One of the meanings of sabr is actually to be persistent. Like isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu doesn't mean be patient, it means to be persistent and not give up, right? So this guy made millions of dollars on Surah Al-Asr without knowing it, right? But point is that this is an age-old formula. It always works, right? One of the things in social sciences that made my iman just like skyrocket to the roof. Literally in my 3rd year in abnormal psychology, I was sitting in class and I was crying. And so there's a girl beside me, she says, everything okay? I'm like, yeah, he's pretty smart, this author. He's figured something out that, someone said 1400 years ago. And we had a long discussion after. I was trying to explain to her how one of the most important principles of abnormal psychology is that when you are dealing with people who are underprivileged, who have some things in life that have put them far back, one of the best things to do to them is not to feel sorry for them. One of the best things to do is to befriend them, right? Which is very different from the Western paradigm of pity psychology, right? So I was trying to explain that, that's the hadith of the Prophet. The Prophet didn't feel sorry for people who were below them. He befriended them and he elevated them. And so her jaw dropped because I quoted her the hadith from Tirmidhi on the Prophet dealing with Jabir because he was really poor and he lost his father. So the Prophet wanted to give him some donation, but he didn't hand him the money. He rather, it went into a business transaction with him where he bought something from him with a lot of high price. So that's not a donation, right? Like if I buy a $2 chocolate from Nabil, but I give him $200, it's not donation, it's a business transaction. But he didn't want to donate things to people because you don't feel sorry for people who are struggling, you elevate them, right? And so I was in tears and she's beside me and she thought I was having some panic attack or something. And this is one of the most amazing things in my journey in the academic world, like Sister Riva was mentioning, and Ustad Janib were mentioning, that when you can marry the two worlds together, you actually have a higher sense of what everything is. Everything adds up. It's not like a jigsaw puzzle. It's all separated. It's all one thing, right? So here's the Pareto distribution. It's a very, very, very difficult thing to swallow, but this is fact. How does this work? It basically means that 20% of inputs produce 80% of outputs. This is true in everything. So in any given room, like this room, right? If we're working on a particular project, 20% of us will produce all the work and the other 80% will depend on the other, depend on the 20%. It's like that on everything. Have you ever had those group projects where you're doing all the work? Yeah, or were you the person who was just standing by and watching someone else do all the work? Yeah, that's built into the system. It's built into social communities. People develop a hierarchy automatically, right? So Haidt does a study. This is amazing. I thought this was amazing. If you put children in a room by the age of 4, so these are 4-year-olds. If you put them in a room, yeah, and they happen to be boys because it works differently for boys and girls. You put 4-year-old boys in a room and there's 10 of them. 2 or 3 of them are going to assume leadership, and everyone else will bow down to their leadership without any rules or adults. That's how ingrained this is. It's crazy how hierarchy is ingrained within us. We can't run away from it. Question is, how do you do it so that you are naturally going to be on the top of the 20%? How do you do that? Well, you get a master's attitude, right? And you make sure you adopt the triple package very seriously, right? Not only is it a dictate of our religion, but even the social sciences are letting us know that that's exactly the way forward, right? So the bell curve, unfortunately, is how people think societies work. That's not true. Societies work like this. You have a few people who are hyper performers and everyone else who basically is a consumer. So the producers are about 20%, 10% of any given group, right? It's like the same thing here. If we were to take artists here, right, in this room, people who are excelling in fine arts, you won't find over 20%. Hard pressed to find people over 20% in fine arts, right? It's the same thing with culinary skills, right? It's the same thing with culinary, same thing across the board. So the question is, how do you develop yourself that in anything that you do, you can gravitate towards the hierarchical edge? How do you do that? Okay, so what we wanted to do was basically, I told you at the beginning of this presentation, the purpose of this school was not to have a school that is out there because there would be no point. Right? We'd be wasting our resources. The high school project costs us way more money than it makes us, like significantly more. This is a bad business idea, okay? Because it incurs a lot of loss upon us, financially speaking, right? So the model doesn't work for financial reasons because we weren't doing it for financial reasons, right? Especially expanding to a new place, to a new location now. Those of you who walked in late, we have a new building for the high school. It's in the same building, but it's a different unit. And so financially speaking, this is a really bad idea. We discussed it with people who were advising us financially. They'd say, this is a bad idea. It's not lucrative at all. And for the next foreseeable future, it doesn't seem like it's going to be lucrative, but we weren't doing it for that reason. We saw that there was a missing edge in society, which is the young people who are at the most formidable ages of their lives, where those are the ages that if they have the right vision and if they have right prerequisites and foundation, they could do things that would be unmatched. They could do things that were unmatched. Today at the presentation, what did she say to you? What did she say to you after that she heard students present? and she spoke to these guys. She's saying these people are.
Our generation is a safe haven.
Yeah, because she's this lady who's been doing this for decades. She's an elderly lady, and she's been to like hundreds of these. And she's listening to our course details and this classes and the presentations from students. And she said, your students are well ahead of the curve. And so as I'm retiring, I feel good that these guys are in good hands, right? And that's exactly the point. We wanted to produce outliers, that 20%. How do we produce that? That's the question. How do you produce the 20%? Okay, so firstly, academic enhancements, right? So the core module is taught by staff with expertise. As you saw, so Sister Ms. Milhira, she's a master's in science. She's the head of the science department. Sister Uriba, she's an English grad. She's a literate author herself. She's a poet, and that's why she's head of the English department. Sister, I don't know if did you mention it because I have to step out. Sister Uriba and I have been literally every day almost meeting to try and refine the curriculum at hand. And we do 10 minutes of curriculum work and the other hour just blowing each other's minds with like really cool things that she's been up to and studying. So it's been an honor doing that with her. But point is that the staff who's teaching this, they have to be someone who is an expert at what it is that they're teaching. That's a requirement for the school. The second thing is that we wanted to achieve a point where we could go beyond AP in all of the courses, especially English, science, and math, right? Especially English, science, and math. So since I went through an AP school myself, and of course, we have access to AP curriculums, we could identify how is it that we can take our school level, our academic level, a step further, if not two. Thirdly, supplemented with Quranic studies. So there's no academic enhancements if the person is not spiritually also enhancing. If the balance is not there, like Ustad Junaid talked about, the project fails. You have an insanely bright person who's unable to understand an ayah of the Quran and they went through an Islamic school, that would be a tragedy, right? Or you have a really bright person who's hyper-productive, but they don't know how to speak to their mother, that's a tragedy, right? So these things are fairly important. The second thing they wanted to do is make sure that students are socially astute. Right? So they know where they are, when they are, and how they are, which is that they read circumstances and environments and act and respond accordingly, right? So transformation oriented. Again, the idea is that wherever they go, these individuals are not the average. They're the 20%. They are the hyper-productive, the hyper-performers. How do we get to establish that? The next thing was employed, experienced, and engaged all before graduation. So our goal is to allow these children in their high school tenure to have their startups. We're already working with 2 students already to get their startups going. So they have an income stream going on, they understand how to manage money, they understand how zakat works, how sadaqah works firsthand. Most adults figure that out when they get money. It's very important to know that before you get the money so that you know what to do with the money when you get the money, right? Get them the basic understanding. Just gonna remove this. Get them the basic understanding of how to manage their own money, and finally, get them experience and get them engaged. The third thing is geared towards community and citizenry, right? So not see themselves in some form of an Islamic bubble, to actually see themselves as contributive members of the community, which means connecting with non-Muslim organizations and Muslim organizations that are not part of the school, engaging with them at whatever level they can engage in, and most likely growing through experience that are not only in class. One of my greatest blessings, alhamdulillah, when I was growing up was my father believed, my parents were on the polar extremes. So my mother is a medical doctor and she wanted all of us to be medical doctors. And she pushed us into lots of studying and that's all she cared about. My father, on the opposite side, had 3 boys and he was a boy and my mom was the only girl in the house. So his understanding was, all we got to do is play sports, and as long as you're good at sports, you'll be fine in life, right? For some reason, he had this in his head that if you're a leader on the court, on the field, on the pitch, you'll be a leader in life. And so I got the blessing of having polar opposite parents, one really extracurricular oriented, the other one really academically oriented, and I benefited from that to a degree that I can't express the gratitude that I have for them for that. So part of what we want to do is to make sure that our students are not just book smart, they're not just well adept in class. It's not just their average and what university they go to that's important. It's also their ability to shine in whatever environment that they're put into, whether it's a social environment, whether it's an athletic environment, whether it's an environment that requires them to connect with other people and network. It doesn't matter. They should have the tools, the soft skills and the academic skills to excel whoever's in the room. Thirdly, practically savvy, right? So this is very important to our school, as you guys have probably gotten a bitter taste of this through preparing children with memorizing speeches and making sure that they can do presentations. But part of the school's ethos is above par oration. Basically what I'm doing in front of you right now, right? To speak with clarity on matters that sometimes are really complex and make them easy for everyone to understand, right? Part of that is essential communication. I actually believe that to be one of the greatest miracles of the Prophet, right? He says in an authentic hadith, "Utitu min jawami al-kalim." He said, I was blessed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me and gifted me with the ability to have brevity in speech. So I'll say a little bit, but it will mean a lot, right? So rhetorically very high, very eloquent tongue. And so the mastery of that, that's one of the purposes of the school. One of the reasons why we were so keen on getting a professional for the English department was this, right? Oration. Second thing is technologically adept. I think Sister Kiflin already spoke about the technologically adept aspect, that technology isn't something the students do, it's something that this is part of them now, right? And so to be responsible and productive users of technology, and also financially astute, as I spoke about before, right? On a stream towards full scholarship. That's the goal of the school, that when the students at grade 12 apply for university, when they're doing their application, they don't have to worry about finances. Why? Because we are assessing students as of now and figuring out what are the scholarships in 4 years that the student is going to be qualified for, and then getting them the prerequisites in the next 4 years for those scholarships. So when they apply for scholarships and grants and bursaries, there's no one who's competing with them who is as qualified and as deserving of that grant or scholarship or bursary than them. Most people start to do that at grade 12. I did that at grade 12, right? Start to think about, okay, should really think about scholarships and where I can apply and where I can squeeze in some things. But if you're doing that for 4 years, you can prep yourself for the ideal scholarship and you can be the ideal candidate for that particular scholarship, right? Content creators and not mere consumers. So that's the 20% and the 80% rule that I spoke about. And finally, what would an ideal graduate have? What are the things they would possess? Committed to mastery, as I presented to you in the Manarat Edge. This is an attitude that we'd like to put across, an attitude of productivity, an attitude of mastery. This is not just in books. It's not that. I don't know which student it was just today. We had a discussion today. Was it the grade 8 class? It might have been the grade 7 class. No, it's the grade 7 class. One of my grade 7 students today, after we had a discussion on a particular short story, he says, where is this written down? Because I was speaking to him like I was speaking to you here. I said, well, it's not written down. I'm saying this to you. And he says, well, if someone was not here in class today, they wouldn't know anything that you just said. So that's how life works, yes. If you're not present, you're absent, you've missed out. And he said, that's a problem. I said, this is a grade 7 student. And he says, that means if we are missing any of the liberal arts classes, then we miss out on an experience that you can't get through books. I said, that's absolutely it, because it's an attitude. You can't teach attitudes to people. They're transferred through communication. It's very, very important to understand that. So spirituality, spiritually, academically, psychologically, socially, and financially. All of the grades, courses that are selected to commit students to mastery on these 5 pursuits. I put those two separate, spiritually and academically, because schools, especially Islamic schools, those are things parents would be looking for, spirituality and academics. But that's not our only concern. You saw that Sister Mediha is teaching the elective course on food and nutrition. Why? Because physical is very, very important. Psychological is very, very important. So is social. The next thing was dexterity and sinisterism. Does anyone know where the word dexterity comes from? Yeah, it comes from Dex. No, the grade 8s can't talk. Testing the parents. Or the word sin, which comes from sinisterism. It's actually right and left in Latin. Right, dexter is right, sinister is left. And that's why evil, not only in Islam, but even in ancient culture, is associated with the left. And goodness, not only in Islam, but even in ancient cultures, is associated with the right. Socrates makes an argument that this might be natural. Basically, he's saying it's from the fitrah that you do good things with your right and bad things with the left. Anyways, active forces of good in the world, an agent of change. That's the ideal. The ideal would be people who are in the business of changing other people's lives. and first and foremost their own. Then hands-on mastery of essential tasks. What I mean hands-on mastery of essential tasks, not school tasks, but essential tasks in life. For example, cooking. For example, some little bit of hardware stuff that is essential for students. Doesn't matter how good you are at math, right? Or how savvy you are with your English. If you need a bulb changed, it's not gonna help you. So you need to know how to change a bulb. Those are important. So hands-on mastery of essential tasks. Macro and micro analysis. So understand the world as a global puzzle, and then understand parts and be able to navigate through both things. Then encompassing individual development of core skills. So technology, we spoke about that already. It's computers, automobiles, etc. Culinary, to do with cooking. Social counseling, so be a change in society wherever they go, beacons of light. And entrepreneurship and management. And I spoke about that already, right? Content creators and not mere consumers. Once again, 20%, not the 80%. And so that is pretty much it from us. We, alhamdulillah, we could not market our program because we never had permission from the government to operate the system as of yet. That all changed today, right? So very simple rule that I follow in my life. It was given to me by my teacher, my Sheikh Noor Sadiq. And then we follow here at Manarat as well. If something is really good, it doesn't require marketing, right? So I'll give you a small example of this. You know, Zayan was here. I don't know who else was here. Rafi was here a couple of Fridays ago. We had one of my teachers come here, Sheikh Omar, and teach a hadith, couple of hadith, and the students got an ijazah in those hadith. And when we were doing that, Sheikh Omar usually works with a group of people through a different institute. And so he called me 2 days before and he says, Brother Hassan, there's no marketing. How are you going to fill the place up with 100 people if you haven't marketed it? And I said, don't worry about that. We don't do any marketing. And he said, how are people going to find out? How are people going to come? Like, don't worry about that, right? There are 3 groups that I reached out to. My own students, you guys sitting here, right? My students, the one that I teach at my academy, right? And Brother Junaid. That's it, 3 places. And we had a full house, 90 people registered for the Ijazah class, right? Wednesday morning, the flyer came out, Friday was the class. So if something is a need for people, if it's useful, you don't have to market it. You don't. I strongly believe that this is an idea whose time has come, right? That when I was growing up, I didn't have anything remotely close to this. Is it going to be perfect? No. I'll be the first one to admit to that. It's not going to be a perfect system. Just like what your children are going through now, siblings, children, yeah, what they're going through now in the grade 8, that was in the grade 8 5 years ago. It wasn't. It went through a process. But even the grade 8 5 years ago was far more enhanced, right? I'm connected to those students as of now. Every person who graduates from here is connected to us in some way or the other, right? We have graduations here and everyone's in tears, including the guys. It's really weird, right? So our graduation classes, all the students who are graduating are crying up. I know you guys say you won't cry. We'll see. We'll see, right? The girls, I can guarantee will cry, okay? The guys, I don't know about. But here's the thing. Why does that happen? I didn't cry at my graduation, right? At any of them, right? I'm sure you did. Well, you cry if you're like departing from friends or something like that, but not because you're graduating from a particular institution. That doesn't happen. That's weird, right? That's not normal. Because one of the things we want to do is stress this point home, that this isn't available anywhere else. That I can be sure. Is it perfect? No. Is it available anywhere else? Not even close. I say that as an educator. I worked with St. Croix Catholic School for 2 years. I worked at Lerna. Sister Uriba has been teaching for the past 4 or 5 years, heavily invested in the public school system and also in the Islamic school system. Is there anything like this available? And it doesn't exist. I wouldn't be doing it if it existed. It'd be a waste of my time. Right? I'd like to consider myself in the first 20%. I'm not there, I know that. I'm trying to work towards there. I wouldn't want to waste my time on a project that I didn't believe in, right? So that's our little pitch. I know everyone is waiting for the food and we have a good half an hour to indulge. But if you have any questions, please book appointments with myself. I'd love to see you. We'd love to, you can pick my brain as much as you want. Our job is not to convince you at all. Our job is to just let you know what's going on. You guys make the decisions, let me know. I do want to give you some important deadlines. Internal applications from Manarat to Manarat are very easy to process. There's no biggie in processing those. However, we do need to know if you're interested or not. Okay? Even if you're vaguely interested, we need to know why, because now that we've gotten approval from the ministry, we can market these courses out. We can market the program, but we don't want to market the program before we give the students who are here the opportunity to register first, or at least show interest. So depending on how many, if there's 3, if there's 5, if there's 15, if there's 12, based on that, we're gonna have a setup of marketing campaign. If there's a lot of interest from our current grade 8 batch, we're not gonna do a high-end marketing campaign. It doesn't make any sense. Just let a few people know, that's it. If we have very few people, then we're gonna send it to a couple of groups and see what happens. Okay. As for deadlines, for those people who are interested in AP, what we spoke about before, you need to speak to me as of next week, early next week. So if you're interested in either St. Joseph's or John Fraser, which are the 2 AP schools in our neighborhood, you need to speak to me as of next week because I need to work on the applications with the students. Okay, their deadlines are coming up. For your local schools, no requirements, right? You go to your local school and say my son or daughter is going to be attending here in September, and it's just some paperwork, a couple of signatures, and you're done. Okay, the rest of the Islamic schools, if you're interested in any of them, call them, figure out what the waitlist system is, because sometimes you will get stuck. If you wait later, you might not be on even the wait list. That's how busy Islamic schools are throughout the GTA. Yeah, if you think I'm making it up, try it. Try call them and see how much spots they've left. Yeah, I have a sister who came in with a 1-year-old as of 2 weeks ago. And she says, can you put her on a wait list? Sister Shifa's not here, right? Okay. And I said, well, we don't really do that. So, well, you know, by the time she's 4, what if I miss out? That's our community. I'm not saying that's a problem. It's a good thing to have in our community that people are concerned about education. But if you are interested in a different school, perhaps one closer, perhaps you know more about that school, call them right now and make sure that you do the paperwork. If not, at least put your name on the wait list. Okay. And if you have any questions, I know all of us are going to hang around here for the next half hour. I think we'll do Isha at 9 after everyone kind of sort of, yeah. Okay. So that's fine. And thank you. And that's him right there. Just trying to embarrass Musa. All right. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Thank you so much for coming, inshallah. So inshallah, we have to, ladies, please help yourself to some snacks, inshallah, and then we'll have the gentleman go forward. He's saying do it at 9. That's okay. We have it's extra. We consider them with us. The problem is they are not aware of it. He is going to be great for we will in the sessions of We have decided the structure, but they have for our for non-students. We should
Thank you so much. I was just.
Okay, so
I'm so sorry.
mashallah, no, but
Yeah.
it's very nice. Perfect to pray fast.
Oh, okay. So, any questions?
Yeah.
So, apart from this, was there anything else you remember? No, because
He's going to have to journey. So we're going to have to collect some of those credits or prerequisites for technical. So because of that, I'm going to have to do and then the other term will be courses. And then the second year after, he'll do one term with other big courses, and then the other big courses. Yeah, so he will be, but
that's a prerequisite for there.
he needs his credit, so we pay him and that, USCS he needs a credit. Even if we want to, with the system on the OSR, it's electronic, we will talk.